you just had a longtime employee assassinated. I don't know the extent to which you want to talk about that, but what was that? Is it a harbinger of things to come?
Well, a month ago, Jamie White, a great reporter, great guy. We were working up there Sunday night till about 9 o'clock. I left. He went home and then got shot through the carotid artery, one shot through his neck, and then out the back, and then he bled to death. By the time I got to the hospital, about 15 minutes later, the police got there very quick.
How old was he?
He was 36.
Ugh.
And he was on the Ukraine hit list along with myself and you and a bunch of other people, and everybody getting the SWAT calls, the SWAT teams sent to their houses, and their families has been on that list as well.
Which is basically everyone you know.
Yes. And then of course, Ukraine tortured American journalist Gonzalo Lira to death and then celebrated that. And so, and of course, we have the would-be assassin down in Mar-a-Lago, who was a big leftist, connected to all these intelligence agencies, recruiting hundreds of fighters for Ukraine, an American. Then he comes back and tries to kill Trump. So I think, you've seen Alexander Dugin's daughter blown up in front of him in 2022.
In Moscow by the Ukrainians.
In Moscow.
Murdering a guy's daughter, applauded by Anne Applebaum and all the rest of the ghouls in the United States effectively, because they don't like Alexander Dugin's ideas, so it's okay to murder his daughter with the,
Well, that's the new,
clearly the help of U.S. intel agencies. Let's stop lying about it, right? The CIA.
Absolutely. I said 3+ years ago when the war started, I said the U.S. is running all the targeting.
Of course they are.
With the weapons, that's just a fact. And with their soldiers on the ground, because I know some of the people whose sons are there, when it all started, were really nervous. They didn't give me details, but they're like, yeah, your sons are there, special operations. And there's been a lot of
U.S. military personnel fighting Russia in Ukraine.
Absolutely. I'm on record 3 years ago saying that, and then 2 weeks ago, New York Times, the U.S. has been running the war and been there the whole time, and get a Pulitzer Prize. So that was all known. And so now Trump is trying to rightfully end it. People that don't know, I know your audience knows, but we have Victoria Nuland, we have Soros, back when he could still talk, on Fareed Zakaria on CNN saying, oh yeah, we went there with State Department money and overthrew their government 15 years ago. And we did it again. And we're finally going to break up Russia. And I'm going to be the czar of Russia. 5 weeks ago, they had the deputy head of the unelected EU Commission say, oh, we're going to keep this war going for decades. And we're going to bankrupt Russia with it. And we're going to break Russia in 5 parts. So they're on the news saying, we want peace. We want love. Oh no, Ukraine will never join NATO, which is why Putin went in. And the weapons being brought in to his border. And then separately, Zelensky's always, no, I join NATO. And so, again, the West started this war. Imagine if Russia...
I'm aware, yeah.
I know you know more better than anybody, probably.
No, it's just...
Has encircled.
You've actually... Yeah.
Any American journalist, you've been everywhere. You've documented it. And it's just, we're starting the fight. These crazies are dragging us in to what's really already World War III conventionally, that every escalation moves us closer to nuclear war. The doomsday clock with the atomic energy scientists, was the closest it's ever been. And so this is really fundamental. And so any concern I have about being sued or lawfared or attacked doesn't even hit my psychological, spiritual, mental radar, because the big threat is so big of what these megalomaniacs are doing.
So one thing one fact I don't think has penetrated the brains of policymakers in Washington is that we just lost a war with Russia. The U.S. was running that war, the U.S. military, the Pentagon, State Department, CIA, running the war against Russia. It was never about Ukraine. No one in Washington cares about Ukraine or the hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men destroyed. The fact it'll be populated by third worlders. Ukraine, we just eliminated Ukraine. Nobody cares. This was a war against Russia. They hate Russia for a lot of reasons, mostly spiritual. But we lost. And my concern is, because nobody will say that out loud, that we're overstating our power. And in the same way that you sometimes see divorced 60-year-old guys hitting on young women and don't realize that the young women think this is absurd. You're like an old man. Why, you really think I'm going to sleep with you? But the 60-year-old guy hasn't readjusted to the reality of his present condition. He still thinks he's 25. Do you see what I'm saying? And he humiliates himself. That can happen at the level of nations, where, you think you can affect outcomes that you actually don't have the power to bring about. And so that's called hubris, and that's how empires get destroyed and populations vaporized. And I'm really afraid of that. Why can't We should know that we were not able to win a conventional war against Russia, period. So like, what does that say about our power? And maybe we should readjust our expectations a little bit. I don't want that to be true, by the way. I'm American. I'm not leaving. My family's buried here. But like, don't you think that we run the risk of thinking we're capable of things that we're not capable of doing?
Well, it's an example. Hillary had a lot of fraud baked in, but Trump won in such a landslide, he beat her. And then a lot of Republicans and conservatives and populists thought Trump was going to win for sure, so we didn't have as big a turnout, so they were able to steal 2020. But there was such a giant landslide this time, it overrode the mail-in ballots, the dead people, the illegal aliens voting, all of that. They ran out of bullets. But that's a perfect example of how the Democrats were sure they were going to win in November last year. And they were sure they were going to win in November in 2016, and they didn't. So they had this incredible hubris and this incredible arrogance. And so many of them are actually militarily ignorant themselves. They just put on this big imperious act. And of course, there's the clip of Sean Penn saying, well, I don't think nuclear weapons should be off the table. We shouldn't be afraid to use them because that gives Russia an advantage. Well, it's called mutually assured destruction for a reason, because anybody that uses them is insane.
Not all sleep aids are made by pharmaceutical companies. You probably heard about 8 Sleep by now. They developed the country's most innovative products for sleep. Almost everybody in our office uses something they make called the pod, and they love it. And there's a reason that professional athletes and lots of other smart people do too. You add the pod to your mattress like a mattress cover, and it helps you get a better night's sleep and fill with vitality at the start of each day, in an intimidating way almost. It's amazing. How does it do it? Well, it uses advanced technology to track your sleep and automatically adjust the temperature of your side of the bed to what's perfect for sleep. And temperature makes all the difference. It's backed by over 600 million hours of data. They've also used those insights to create their new product, Sleep Elixir, to help you get quiet before you go to bed, fall asleep faster, and stay knocked out longer. No grogginess, no weird side effects, just better deep sleep. So if you're ready to take sleep and recovery to the next level, go to 8sleep.com/Tucker to get $350 off your Pod 4 Ultra full refund for 30 days if you don't love it. It works.
How do you, like, if you have this ability, which you do, I'm not sucking up, it's just, again, it's provable, to put together a picture, an extraordinarily accurate picture of what the future holds, like, what does that do to you? How do you sleep and how do you live? And like, why haven't you totally destroyed yourself? Like, those are kind of not thoughts that most people, including me, are burdened with and don't really want to be burdened with. But like, how do you turn off the visions of the future in your head?
Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying nice things about me, and obviously God gives us all different gifts, and I do have some gifts. But I think a lot more people have these gifts than really realize it.
But you can prove it. That's why I've obviously we're friends, and I like you as a man. But you can prove it in a way that others can't because it's on tape. So it's not really debate. Has Alex Jones had more accurate predictions of the future than any living person in the world that I know of? We can prove that. We don't have to argue about it. I've got the freaking tape. So again, it's not even a compliment. It's just an observation. And I don't know why I seem to be the only person who's obsessed with this. Like, how did this guy predict this? No, everyone's like, oh, he's crazy. Okay, maybe he's crazy, but he predicted this. So my question is like, what does that do to you?
I mean, it is stressful, the responsibility of constantly researching and looking at all, culture, pop culture. That's where a lot of the real brainwashing's at. That's where a lot of the predictive programming and manipulation goes on.
Yes.
But also in so-called news. But I mean, I did get to where I drank way too much, ate too much, got really unhealthy because I could, go home at night and have some drinks and, and eat half a key lime pie and just kind of dial out and forget about reality. But things have gotten so intense and so dangerous that for about the last 9 months, I haven't drank. And I've been exercising every day, and I've lost 63 pounds, and I feel great. And I've just embraced the responsibility. Plus, we're alive right now, really in the Great Awakening, where more and more people are piecing things together and deciding to really get informed and engaged. And so I've always said I want to become obsolete, where people really start understanding how the world really works to such an extent that there are so many other journalists and researchers and pundits and just private citizens and people in business and academia and life and in the ecclesiastical circles that they really realize that this globalist system is transhumanist, it is evil, it is a spiritual battle at the end of the day, and people need to really choose a side. And so I think choosing the side and saying, hey, God, I can't do this. I'm weak, I'm imperfect, but through you I can, and really praying and asking God to lead, God, and direct you and give you discernment. So to really answer your question, I'll have all this data and this research, and so that my feeble human mind can understand really what God tells me. And then it's that final little ingredient of being sure about something, that's what they're intending to do. But we have real agency. Good has more power than evil. They always say the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world that he didn't exist. I think that's his second biggest trick, is that he doesn't exist, and he does. His biggest trick is convincing people that there is no good out there, and that there's not.
That's right.
And that God doesn't exist. So, for me, so much of it again is in the old days, the globalists, the Western propaganda after the end of World War II, and since then, when we won World War II, had pretty much total narrative control. And so anything they were pre-programming and preparing and hyping the people for, they pretty much always got what they wanted. So it was easy to follow those trend lines out and see what the probable main scenarios were. And then things would almost always come true that I predicted because they were still in charge. Now that the globalists are really collapsing and a new international order and system is forming, coming from the grassroots up, politics is downstream from the grassroots. And because Trump is such a chaos bringer to their system, which is good, but with it also comes danger. But it's better than living, on our knees and then ending up having our souls basically taken. It's better to fight down on our feet. But in my experience, people that fight on their feet live a lot longer and have better lives than people that try to live on their knees. People that live on their knees actually die on their knees a lot more often than people who die on their feet, in my experience. So now is really the global revolution. It's a spiritual revolution. The information, the culture, all of that comes out of that. And so now there's so many possible futures and so many developments because there's been so many good people that actually care and want to stabilize civilization and thrive and have a future, and who are not based on conquest mindsets, but are based on Renaissance concepts, the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening, that right now anything is possible because America still has the world reserve currency, still has the biggest, best military, still has the best energy system for raw energy, and still has a spirit that is being rekindled that was the apple of the world's eye and really the flower of the Renaissance that we're now rebooting. It's powering back up right now. And that window is closing, but we're acting on it right now. And if we're just not weak and cowards, like Trump has said, and if we don't become panicans but remain Americans, then really anything is possible, because as Elon has said, if America falls, the central pillar in Western civilization, and Western civilization falls, it all falls.
Yes.
And so for me, I don't do this out of courage. I do it out of direct self-preservation for myself, my family, and by extension, everybody else, because we're all interconnected. And people need to understand the true urgency that the globalists said they were going to collapse the world economy and use that for social control, as Larry Fink said, to control our behavior. And we're going to build something extremely hellscapish and dystopic in their own admissions. All the horrible stuff we see is just the leading, edge of it. So to me, there's really even no choice but to fight it with everything I've got.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.